Hi guys. My apologies for the schedule. You try telling a 120-pound dog on a perfect day on a perfect field that it's time to go home and see how much luck you have getting him in the car. Anyway, I'm not sure who's going to attend, but as promised, I owe you guys a few Gospel of Thomas quotes, and I owe you something that I think I want to help you with, and that is a lot of the times what happens is, if you notice, that the closer you get to your desire, the opposite manifests. That moment when you doubt, that moment when you're afraid, that moment, what do you do in that moment that, like, you're trying so hard not to react? So I'm going to give you a different way to look at it. All right? But first and foremost, I'm going to bring us back home, and I'm going to read a quote to you. They both go together. They're both said separately, but they both go together. One of them is, know what is in front of your face, and what is hidden from you will be disclosed to you. For there is nothing hidden that will not be revealed, and there is nothing buried that will not be raised. It's very interesting language. Okay. The next one, very similar. Don't lie and don't do what you hate, because all things are disclosed before heaven. After all, there is nothing hidden that will not be revealed, and there is nothing covered that will remain undisclosed. So the reason that these two quotes are so important, if you notice, it says, don't lie and don't do what you hate. If you feel a certain way and you say the opposite, that's a lie. Okay? Not a lie like a moral judgment. That's just not being authentic. Okay? I don't mean like, I really don't mean this as a moral call. I'm trying to explain this. Okay? And it says, don't do what you hate. In other words, if you lack love for something, then you're doing what you hate. If you lack love for anything, and will hate. The reason this is so important is because then it says, all things are disclosed to heaven. Well, if heaven is in your mind and all of your thoughts are known to yourself and yourself alone, then yeah, you know what's going on in here. Okay? After all, there's nothing hidden that will not be revealed. Now, the reason that is so crucially important is, you see what you guys are seeing all around you, this 3D matter? This that looks solid, that looks real, even if it's the unwanted result, or if it's the desire of something that you didn't want, whatever. Okay? This is our darkness. Okay? This is what floats all around us. So when we refuse to identify with a thought in here, because we don't deem it worthy, it then appears outside of us. So guess who's showing their naked thoughts? Everywhere they go. They just walk around. You're as naked as can be. And all of those people are your bodies, representing the thoughts you're choosing not to love, or the situation you're choosing to hate. So it's all revealed. That's why it's a puzzle. Okay? And so there's nothing covered that remains undisclosed, meaning that even if you try not to tell something, not to say something with your mouth, your mind is on display outside of you, because there is no such thing as duality. There is only one thing, and that one thing is you and how you view your world, and that is what we're animating. Okay? So if we take it back even further and we talk about the conversation that God supposedly had with Adam and Eve. That conversation is God having a conversation with all of mankind. These little voices floating in your head. Okay? That's your universe. That's your universe. existing in your mind, and that's what's outside of you. And so then what we're here to do is transcend that duality. And that's so important because, I don't have the visuals. I'm going to get them. But what I want to show you is this. If you're the light right here, okay, this is the constant light. It's coming from within you, and everything around you is your 3D world, okay? Everything appearing outside of this body right here is still God. It's your light, but it represents choices not seen, or even better yet, it represents someone. If this person is standing on this side of the house and you're standing over here, this person can see the rest of your thought, your whole thought. And your whole thought exists from east to west in different varying degrees of truth. So your fears and the things you don't want represent the farthest end of relative truth. So if someone is standing in front of that shadow, deeming you a massive, huge favor of disagreeing with you, they're showing you what kind of obstacles you may have to overcome in order to step into your desire. Because these bodies are barriers. Every single last one of these thoughts are thoughts that either are for or against the way that you see. And if you realize you have that much power, then understanding what's going on around you then changes the trajectory. Because you have one of two choices. Should you judge the moment, you will enter into a partial conception of yourself and you will die. Die. Do you know what that means? You get to live that way. You get to live that way. You get to be right no matter what. So then if we judge and we don't understand what someone is showing us in our own feedback, in our own thought process, then we're totally disregarding the messenger who came to show us what's going on inside of us. Because everyone is equally God. Everyone is equally valid, right? So therein lies the problem. If I believe in an establishment, and I make an establishment real, and I establish a power outside of me, and I believe that with every fiber of my being, guess who shows up? The entire establishment, the people for and against, and everything in between in varying degrees of existence. All of it exists at once. And guess who has the power to erase the establishment? The person upholding it. And here's the thing. The reason you don't believe it's that easy is because you don't know you are the entire universe at once. Therefore, you are the intelligence behind the 3D that you animate, not the 3D that you are animating. And that is the key, because if you don't know the difference, you live in partial life. Partial life. You suffer the limited understanding that is not true of God. And that sucks, because you don't want to live in your fear, okay? Now, the reason this is so important is, what do you do when everything appears like it's not what you want, okay? And this person is behaving exactly the way you don't want them to behave, right? This is that moment where you're like, this is the opposite of everything I want. What do I do? He doesn't sound like anything I want, or she doesn't sound like anything I want. This isn't what I've been imagining in my mind. What is this? I don't know. And that moment of fear, okay, ends the minute you realize that that shadow outside of you is asking you or showing you what you're afraid of, so you can see your obstacles as they're occurring, so that you can stop suffering. Meaning that they're doing you the greatest favor on earth. Okay? That's almost like having a guardian angel that is telling you what's going on, so that when you're walking in the dark and that bullet starts to go past your head, you know when to duck. Because their voice told you what was going on. Their voice explained what was going on in your head. And so this is when we take that time to exercise that muscle that says, okay, hold on. I create as I speak. This moment is unformed. This person just did me a huge favor. I can't see that far, right? That's why this other body is appearing as not me on the other side of my whole perception, so that I can see what's going on inside my head, and then I'll have peace. But if I treat this human being like an enemy, then I become the enemy to see the enemy. And therefore you live what God calls death. You just died. There you go. You get to live in there. Now, thankfully, the eternal mind was not made to be encaged, and therefore has an out, and your vessel is that. You have the power over your unformed moment. You arrive precisely at your formed moment that appears chaotic to fix it and to demonstrate God's power in you, working through you, changing and blessing the people around you. But if at any time we judge locally or inside our head, I promise you that is what we're going to fall into. Because what is happening is our heart creates a resonating field, okay? It knows the way all the time. And so it is going in the direction of your desire. It's dictating your desire. You know what you want because of your desire. It is because of your heart's magnetic field that you know when you encounter something that doesn't look like you, you consider that negative. It's right? But you're misjudging it. Because our job is not to see duality. Our job is to understand, how is the light that I'm casting from here making what I see below my shadow, and how can I redeem it, because it is always me. Therefore, if I wish to be the devil or I wish to be God in that moment, that is a choice we all have. Honestly, because it's an illusion. It's an illusion. You are here to transmute the darkness. And what we've confused for reality is the darkness. And you guys have an opportunity to change that. And so what you do when you don't panic, I'm going to borrow something from the beautiful Nina in our group, who reminded me of, taught me something so important. When you encounter something that doesn't look like God, and you're doubting in the moment, and you feel completely out of control, that's when you need to ask yourself, does this thought know my God? And your God is the one who is eternal, who can do anything, who doesn't live within your experience, who exists outside of time, who can move mountains, who can make rivers appear, who can resuscitate the dead. Anything is possible in the light. And if your answer is no, and a lot of times when you're in fear, the answer is no, you're able to release it. You're able to release it. You just say, thank you. And you keep it moving and you hold your space. But when that moment, instead of panicking, I want you to practice this muscle. I want you to get excited when you should be afraid. I want you to get excited. I want you to write down, what is this point of contention? What is this that I'm not identifying with? Who is helping me right now by showing me what kind of thoughts don't belong in my kingdom? Give me a minute. Let me write this down and let me shout hallelujah, because if that person wasn't standing there in that moment to tell you the opposing point of view, you could not see the material veil that you had to transcend to get to the other side of your desire. Your desires are instant. The only reason you want a desire is because God gave it to you. So therein lies the problem. The only reason you don't have something exactly the way you want it is not knowing the power of God in you, or forgetting to acknowledge the power of God in you that can get you to the other side. It's knowing not to hate, and to really, really get excited about the people that come into your lives, and to listen and learn to discern. You know, I learned this from an extremely good friend of mine, Rafaela, who taught me something so important a long time ago. And that is, this was before I even knew what I was doing, or before I even understood the design or anything. She worked in a place where she had to deal with people complaining all the time. And when they reacted all crazy, for whatever reason, she had the ability to say, they're not yelling at me. That's a cry for help. And so what I want you to understand is, she heard the cry for help that was her own soul. And that's what your points of contention are. Your own soul asking to be redeemed, asking to be seen in a different light, asking you not to be afraid, asking you to remember who you are so that you can enter the world that is, in fact, the intelligence behind the entire image you animate. Change is instant. It really is. I wish I could tell you that I was making it up, but it's not. Most of you, when you don't realize this, you're doing this unconsciously. You create automatically. You think, you enter, the up and down. This up and down yo-yo, let me tell you something. God's life, perfectly balanced, always good, always getting better, okay? There's no yo-yo in God's life. The yo-yo means you forgot who you were in the moment, and that's what you're there to remember. And so you level up. And so what I want you to treat every person that appears not to be you, but appears to be arguing with you, or appears to represent your fears, or appears to be the opposite of what you think is real, every person like that, I want you to celebrate them. Celebrate. They're helping you. I know you don't see that in the moment, but they are, because you can spend an eternity and months in mental torture trying to define what a moment meant, or you can take the help of the person appearing before you that is God, pretending not to be you, and showing you what's in your field so you can figure out what your unconscious blocks are and write them down. Because if you can do that, now you know how not to animate unconsciously, how to animate consciously. You can rip and burn the paper that used to be how you used to think, and you stand still in what you know. And that changes. That changes everything, you guys, because there are people in this world that are paid a lot of money just to stare into a crowd. And they're claiming that they're instantly healed. And that's why millions are bringing this man, a single individual, money. Just to stare into the crowd, because he says nothing. He is already embodying God's state. He has figured out the vessel. He's figured it out. And now all he does is stand still in a crowd, and people pay millions of dollars for this. And they're healed like that. And so now if you don't know that's a possibility in you, what I'm saying sounds insane, doesn't it? And yet that is your power. It's all you. Our job right now, the only way through is it's to realize we are the intelligence behind the design. We are totally the only reason that anything happens to us in our lives. There is no out there. Now, if you want to get mad at out there, understand that you judge yourself. I had a young man who right now clearly has a problem with God, and he made a comment like, well, you know, God's a jerk anyway. And in that moment, it's like, if you think about what he just said, he just called himself a jerk, because there is no outside power. You see what I'm saying? And he didn't even do it intentionally. He thought he was blaming someone else. Just like we tend to do when we allow ourselves to get sucked into a 3D illusion and then blame an establishment that we created in our mind. Or when we blame our boyfriend for not loving us when we don't love ourselves. When we create scenarios that we're afraid of. We don't realize that they're trying to show us, hey, we don't feel worthy right now, so we're going to show you what's going on inside of you, and we're going to appear outside of you so we can help you, show you, see what's going on, why this is occurring. Because we need to stop this trajectory, you guys. The only way through the veil of material form at all times, no matter where you find yourself, is to understand that your shadow is your child, Jesus Christ, asking to be redeemed. And that is humanity. That is the universal conception. You are the barrier, and in your moment, you are God. I cannot make this up. I've seen the design. I've seen the God design. I've seen how all the people are playing below. I've seen it from above the world. I wish I could tell you, but like, I get it. And the coolest thing in the world about this whole thing is that all of the control panel is here. And once you know this kind of power that's connected to this kind of power right here, these two things as one, you will understand what I'm saying to you. So the answer to what do you do when the opposite is appearing, you take notes. And you look at every situation with the objection, like a scientist. So you don't have to be in the play. You can rise above the 3D box and look at it from outside. And then from that perspective, hear all sides. And then you're not blind inside a 3D experience. Okay? I mean, when I teach you guys about universal mirrors, this is exactly why I teach it. Because if you can understand why you happen to find yourself in a situation, you will never, ever be scared again, because you are the light of your experience. You are always perfect. So if something is appearing as imperfect, that is your judgment you came to redeem. That's what you are animating just simply by standing there. And you can end it in the same breath. Everything that you fear, when something hasn't happened right away, it's because you believe in the fear more than you believe in the truth. And so when people appear to animate that fear, they're doing you a favor. So you won't be afraid, so you can see in the dark. And so what I'm asking is, even when they don't seem to agree, love them. Appreciate the messenger. Take notes. They're disclosing what was hidden from you, what you were afraid. They raised what was dead. And you do that all the time as well. It's never not, you're never not on display. You're only choosing to experience a moment to a moment, but you have this opportunity in you not to suffer, not to be afraid, to know your power. And believe me, when you are divine love, like you are the epitome of divine love in every moment, everyone just kind of, and the ones that don't, they don't want to be there yet. So they stay outside. But either way, our job is to remain at peace and know that we cannot be afraid of the darkness we're walking in right now, because our fear will perpetuate our suffering. If you could see behind the scenes, you would see just how perfect everything already is. But the only way to enter something is to enter something by not feeling it's perfect. Therefore, that's the light that we must came to redeem in order to have the experience. It's a neutral thing. It's not meant to be, this is good and this is bad. That's evil and that's good. Because none of that's true. None of that's true. There's only the absence of the quality that you want and the quality that you want in the moment. But all of it must exist in order to just be everything. Okay? So in these moments of fear, I need you to get excited. I need you to put on your scientist hat. And I need you to start taking notes. What are you thinking right now in this moment? What is it that you're judging? How are you judging this moment? Because, and what did the other person say? The other person said what? And write down those notes and then look at the box as if two people just gave you what was inside the 3D box that you could not see. Treat everyone like they're helping you because they are. If you judge someone asleep, that person is not asleep. That person is pretending to be asleep so you can see inside yourself, because that person is your shadow body showing you inside yourself the parts of you that you are not identifying with. But there is no duality. There is no good and evil. There is no God, devil in that sense. There's just the experience of knowing that you are all and that it's perfect and that you're there to redeem the experience, or you're there to have the experience. And the only way to have the experience is to enter the state in which it's not what you want is not real, so that you can define what is real. And if you learn to do this in peace every single time, every single time, every single time, your life becomes exactly how God designed it to be. Perfect. Perfect in its ever-changing perfection of getting better and better and better and better and better. Okay? You guys can have it all. Don't judge that moment. Listen to God. God said you will die if you judge. That literally means you will live as you believe. Outside of the garden, where the perfect experience that you've always wanted exists. Okay? I love you guys. I won't keep you up too much. I just really wanted to talk to you about these situations because they're scary. And if you uphold the scary part, I just want to say that it holds the scary part up longer. And so then how long you remain in something that you don't want, you could be there for months. Months and months. Years. Thinking the same way forever and ever and ever. Hence why he says you die there. Or you remember, you catch yourself, you do the correct order of operations that we discussed before, and you get in and out of every world that you've ever entered. Because guess what? You've been doing this unconsciously your whole life. It's time to know how you do it consciously. This ends suffering. This ends fear. This allows you to be the love that you're expecting to receive. Because no part of it deems itself unworthy, therefore receives everything it deserves. Because anything unworthy would be an illusion if we were told God is everything. Then declaring something unworthy would be death. Or what we would think life is. It's not. Okay? All right, you guys. Remember this, and I'm gonna be working with more of these graphic guys. I'm partnering hopefully with Karen to also do the interactive teaching, and some way, somehow, I'm gonna show you this design in my head so that you guys can see how you enter these 3D boxes, so that even though on some level you're understanding what I'm saying, the visual cues would be cool. And I'm hoping, you know, children's books and, you know, I'm trying to give the secrets of your universal dominion understandable enough to a 5-year-old child. Because if a 5-year-old can understand me, everyone can understand me. So that's the mission. I'm excited. And I want to thank you guys for even just being here with me. So remember, don't forget, in that moment, instead of being afraid, put on your scientist hat, take notes, and then look at the box. And then I want you to write in, if you have to, the opposite. You're supposed to imagine wisely, not unwisely. Imagine wisely. So put in the opposite of everything you think is real, and that is the truth, and there is your veil. And you are that veil. You are the material person preventing things from coming in and out of your eternal moment now. If you realize that's how the design works, it changes everything. Okay? I love you. I love you so much. Thank you so much for joining me today. And we'll do more of these. But I hope this helps. Okay? All right. Bye-bye.